And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our Map Talk. And I'm very excited tonight to have a great panel tonight and also an esteemed guest. Tonight, we quite privileged to have a friend of mine who is also a co-trainer in facilitator in the Map for Life methodologies, Mr. Deo Mujinga, who will be our guest speaker for tonight. He is somebody that has a background in software engineering. He's just completed his master's in computer science with a strong focus on data science specifically. And he joins us tonight from Silicon Valley in the USA. And tonight we're going to be fortunate to hear his story about sight is not vision. So please join me in welcoming Deo Mujinga. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. I believe I should be live. I should be online. Thanks for the introduction there, Marvin. Appreciate that. If you should just bear with me, I just want to share. I've got a slide that I need to share with you. I'm going to bring it up if I can. That'll be fantastic. Okay. Right, so I'll be sharing with you my testimony today, and I have named, or I have subtitled that sight is not vision. And I want to take a second just to talk about that. And the reason why I've subtitled that as sight is not vision is because of the attributes of both of these impact our lives differently and influence how we live life differently. So the one is physical, for sure, which is sight, and the other one is happens to be elusive and abstract. And it's important to kind of understand the difference or the nuances that comes between sight and vision. So there's a testimony that I'll give you in terms of a milestone that I've reached since I've started using the MAP methodology. And I've subtitled that sight is not vision. Right. So I'll give you a little bit of a brief in terms of my MAP timeline, when I got into MAP and how I got into MAP to date. So in 2017 was marked the genesis of my MAP journey, where Marvin Hawkins, the one that has just introduced me, was an individual that really took me under his wings and showed me this thing called Map for Life, right? And at the time, I was an avid reader and follower of Dr. Miles Munro. And during the time that Marv introduced me to Map for Life, it was in 2017, and I had a aha moment, a moment where I discovered that there was something that I was learning from the reading, something that I was learning from following Dr. Miles Munro that resonated immensely with this tool. It resonated immensely with this tool. And the aha moment was, I named that intra-leadership. At least it was a discovery for me, where I named that intra-leadership. So, oftentimes when you learning leadership, what you find is you learn an inter leadership, leadership between you and others, how you can connect with others, and how you can lead others. So it's everything that happens outside of you. All right, so that's inter leadership. So you're having that leadership with others. And I had a couple of conversations and meetings with Marvin, and when we were sitting down and debunking and dissecting this tool, the one thing that came to me was intra leadership. And this is in 2017, the genesis of my map journey. Intra leadership, leadership within self. When you take the wheel of life, because the biggest tool within map is the wheel of life that's subsected in 8 different parts. You've got different part of your life that speaks to yourself. Those are pointing to yourself to say, how do I lead myself? How do I become a better self? What is the intra leadership status within me? So in 2017, I had that aha moment with Marvin. And since then, I've never looked back. In 2018, I did my mastery program with Glenn, and I think we went all the way down to Durban to have that done. And then fast forward to 2022, I think I'm pleased to say that I have followed the methodology. I've followed the steps. I have followed, the rule book, and I've come to an accomplishment that I think has been pretty massive for my life. So this is a timeline in terms of Map for Life, or at least my journey from 2017 to 2022 to date. Right. So sight is not vision. I want to preface this conversation by giving you a quote. And I love quotes. So this quote is by Helen Keller. She says, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. I'll say it again. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. So there is a neurological deficiency that you have when you do not have vision. I'm sorry, when you do not have sight. There's a neurological deficiency. There's a level of a brain that's not developed. Although, regardless of that, as bad as that may be, the only thing that is worse than that is not having vision. In other words, what Helen is saying here is it does not take sight to have vision. I'm a Christian, so I want to give you a small story. In Matthew's 9, I believe, Jesus was walking, and there were 2 blind men that followed him and said that they wanted to see. There's a particular phrase that he asked at that point, and that was, do you believe that you could see? So Jesus goes beyond sight to tap into vision to restore sight. So the only thing that is worse than being blind is sight with no vision. Right. So restore leadership. So I want to have a conversation a little bit about this. This is restoration of leadership that has been taken away. What you're looking at there is a picture of my vision board that I had built and constructed in the year 2018. This lived in my bedroom on my wall. And it is something that I always take it with. I take with everywhere I go. Restoration of leadership that has been taken away. Some of the images here may be graphical. I apologize if that's too graphic, but it is speaking to where I come from. It is speaking to what my vision is. It is speaking to what I'm trying to restore as an individual. It is speaking to intra leadership. Before we start tackling inter leadership and leadership with others, it is speaking to what could have been, should be, and must have been within me, and what may have possibly been taken away. And this is what we're looking at. And just to add to that, I've got what you're looking at the bottom there. That's my cell phone. I always take that with me. And the quote for the one at the bottom says, expel the mental vandalism because you are more than enough and you can. So expel the mental vandalism because you are more than enough and you can. It is leadership within self. Expel the mental vandalism. So from there, I want to talk a little bit about the goals. So what I'm saying here is that goals set within vision are imparted into, and those outside vision are parted from. So I've got 3 steps that I've discovered to be my ritual in my goal setting. And the first one is it is through me, not for me. So when I put down goals, and this is where I've gotten to, and when I put down goals, it is through me. It is not for me. And the second step in that is I'm the vessel of impact. I'm not the impact. So I'm being used and I'm not what it is that's being used. So I'm the vessel that brings through the impact. I'm not the impact. And the third on that is who is on board. So this speaks, and this is on the premise of MAP as a tool. It is vision, and it is given that you've gotten the vision, you go beyond that. Who is on board? Because once you've got the vision, it's usually bigger than it should be for you to be able to bring that vision to pass by yourself. But until that vision is beyond you, you're probably not going to have someone on board. So in my goal setting, I say set goals within visions are imparted into, and those outside visions or vision are parted from. So my vision was to pivot into AI, into artificial intelligence, which I have put down to paper and got it into to this point. And this was something that I could have not possibly have done by myself. That's safe to say. Something I couldn't have done by myself. So the processes, and what I'm showing you here is out of total humility and humbleness. So we've got what you're seeing on your left-hand side is could not fulfill this locally. What that means is you are looking at Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I fulfilled the vision that I had, where I fulfilled the goal that I had in terms of completing my master's degree in data sciences and artificial intelligence. That's where that took place. And to tell the honest truth and being bare with you, I could have not done this by myself. So this is something that I couldn't have done locally. I had to do it overseas because of restrictions and just not being able to do it locally. And then from there, once I got there, as I've stated earlier, I'm pretty leadership inclined, and that is one thing that I've always studied and I love. I was selected as faculty program leader, by faculty as a program leader and the president for my entire cohort. And what you're seeing there with the yellow ribbons is me graduating with leadership excellence within the school for my program. And the third process that happened within my story was I was awarded with a peer with the most impact. So peer of the year with the most impact. And what that was is my entire program got together to pick the individual with the most impact to the program. And I happen to be one of those. And this is from having written the goals down within vision and making sure that the goals were within vision and having brought people on board within the vision. And that goal was obviously manifested. So what's my message? My message is that sight is not vision. It is as simple as write it down, make it plain, and run with it. Thank you.
Deo, thank you for that. That really was inspiring. But just a little bit, could we ask you a couple more questions? Could we take you back to 2017? And I'm assuming you were living in Pretoria at that stage when you came into contact with Marvin. I also understand that previously you'd been in the DRC. Could you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I did my first 13 years there, and then I moved from there to South Africa at the age of 14. And in 2017, a miraculous thing happened. I bumped into Marvin Hawkins. And in 2017 was really when the genesis of my journey with MAP started. I've always been, like I said earlier, so I was always studying, books of Miles Munro and trying to delve into depths of, the gems of what Miles Munro would give me. What was interesting was I just never knew that anything beyond what Miles Munro was establishing at the time existed in different forms. And also my ability at the time to delve into revelatory spectrums in terms of what I was dealing with and what I was studying was not matured yet. And Marvin was the pinnacle in terms of bringing me into that space where I could identify things, ask the right questions, as opposed to, trying to shuffle for the right answers, but really ask the right questions about what does it mean to be a leader as an individual? What does it mean to be a leader to people? How do you discover yourself? Because these are some of the things that I was never taught growing up. How do you discover yourself? Right. As I said, in the 13 years of my life in the DRC, I spent it there, have not been taught. How do I discover myself? Who am I as an individual? Right. So the premise of understanding who you are really sets the tone for the rest of your existence, at least here on Earth. And in 2017, I've got to say, having met Marvin Hawkins has probably been the best blessing that I've had. And the introduction to Map for Life also has a tool. So that's, in a nutshell, pretty much the story there.
Academically, what qualifications did you have in 2017, and where did you get those?
In 2017, I had a postgraduate, I had a BTech in information technology at the time.
From where?
I did that at UNISA, at the University of South Africa.
Okay.
Right. So I did. I just to take it back, probably 5 years before that, I did my more than 5 years. I did my high school in South Africa, in Centurion. I completed that. I then did my university studies at UNISA, and that's by 2017. I completed that. I did a business degree at Stellenbosch after that. And then I completed that. Then I came over here to the US to do what I've just done.
I just think it's an incredible journey from the DRC to South Africa, and then to qualify as you did in South Africa, but then this giant leap across to America is almost mind-blowing. And when you talk about vision and sight, I just think it is so exciting. Heather, would you like to comment on that and ask Deo anything?
Yeah, I was just thinking, sight is not vision, physical sight is not vision, but in order to visualize something, you've got to see it somewhere and you sing it in your mind, right? And that's why you created that vision board, because you were putting on the vision board what you were seeing in your mind. What advice would you give to people who want to create a vision board?
Okay. Well, I think what I would probably give is search within you first, right? And the vision board should not necessarily be about your own achievement, because now we, delving into having a conversation about, should I be successful, or should I rather just impact people's lives, right? Success is something that everybody wants. There's no one in the world that just doesn't want success. That comes as a byproduct of serving others, right? What is the one thing within you that you can take out of you, put it on a vision, or on a vision board, on a piece of paper, that can impact others, right? Success is a byproduct of that. It is not that you should have a vision board to make $1 billion, as much as that's good. But that is a byproduct of who you are. So search within you, start on the inside, and say, who am I? Certain questions that are pretty elusive that I think we're not answering is, who am I? Right? Where am I right now? Where am I from?
Yes.
And where am I going? Right?
Yes.
Those are questions that need to be answered. And I think as opposed to answering questions like how much money I can make, or how many cars I could have in my garage, or those kind of materialistic questions, you want to go on the inside, find who you are, where you come from, and where you are, probably where you're going with yourself. So that goes back to intro leadership. And then once you've gotten that, you can visualize that on a white piece of paper and just bring it to life. And once you've brought it to life and it's on a piece of paper, a vision is got to be bigger than you. That's the first thing. It couldn't be something that you could achieve tomorrow. It's got to be bigger than you. So much so that you would need people on board to make that happen. So that would probably be my advice, is that look within, start on the inside, have some sense of intro leadership, find yourself, put that on a piece of paper, let it be beyond you, and let others come on board.
Wonderful. You spoke about, you did a lot of reading of Miles Munro.
Yes.
What was your favorite book of his? And can you like to share a little bit of what you learned from him?
There is a book, I forget what the title is now, but I think I'm going to have to look it back. But there is a book. I remember visually what it looked like in terms of the cover. And I think one of the biggest thing that I've learned and that I've always taken with me is that he's said that there are more, the symmetry is wealthier than, people living right now. And I think dying empty is probably something that we don't think about enough. And Miles Munro, this is the one thing that I've learned from Dr. Miles, is that you've got to die empty, and as empty as you possibly can die. Although for you to be able to die empty, you need to know what to offload. So if you are alive and you don't know what to offload, you couldn't die empty, right? And for you to be able to offload something, you need to know what's on the inside to offload it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the biggest piece of knowledge and I think information that I've taken from Miles Munro in terms of leadership. And again, it starts again from the inside. Even if you need to lead others, it's within. What is it that you possess on the inside? What is it that you have within you that you can offload to the point that once you're no longer and you've passed on, you're empty?
Wonderful. Marvin, you were the super coach. Would you like to add something to the discussion and tell us a little bit about your journey with Deo?
Gosh, it was probably one of the toughest journeys I've had in my life. I'm kidding. No, Deo is a leader at heart. Everything about him is a leader. Outside of MAP, he's a leader. And it's proud for me to see how he's continued living in that leadership mantle that he carries, even into to where he is at the moment. There's a lot of aspects of Deo's journey that he didn't mention in his talk, because the road was not always easy for him. there was a stage where he wasn't sure whether how he would be surviving because he was out of a job at at a specific time. He wasn't sure how he was going to get to the US. Those were some conversations that we had. He wasn't sure if he was even going to get there. He did get a job, and he had to decide to put the resignation in. And what does that mean for him? It was tough decisions that he had to face. And I think the thing that helped him stay on track was his continuous reference to his vision board. He knew where he wanted to be, and I know deep inside his heart he had already engraved that being in the US, doing this at Cambridge, and finishing this masters was kind of a done deal for him. It was just a matter of walking the road and actually kind of doing what needs to be done in terms of the master's fulfillment. So I think he is definitely walking and living out the things that he's been taught, but also the things that's within him. He's outside of this. We were involved in running a key section in the band at CRC Church, and he was, did a great job in running that. A number of young people that are in the section looked up to him and still do look up to him. So leadership is in him through and through, and I'm not surprised that he would talk and reference things about leadership. And I always tease him about calling him Dr. Deo because I have a bigger vision for him, and I think he'll get there. And I think he's smiling because he knows it.
Right.
Now, Marvin, you spoke about him running the band. Did you get him running anywhere else? You couldn't persuade him to come and run the Comrades Marathon with you.
Not. I was that was a bit of a longer term vision, but it required more work.
I've got to say though, I am running now.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm running now more than I ran 5 years ago. So, baby steps, and I'll get there.
Is it on your vision?
That's wonderful. I see Octavia has just put a thing through saying purpose-driven vision board, and I think that is so important. Deo, we talk about moving from success to significance. Would you like to just pick up on that subject?
Sure. So I think they happen in chronological order. This has been my experience. My experience is that they happen in chronological order. So being significant should happen first, before success takes place. And you are successful within your significance. So what happens here oftentimes is once you get the roles reversed and once you get the order reversed, you're looking for success. And then after you've gotten success, then hopefully you can become significant in someone's life. That's doing it the other way around, right? And it looks sweeter that way too. So that makes it more attractive to the human being or to the human mind that, okay, once I've gotten successful, maybe I can have some sort of an impact. But essentially what you want to have is an impact, and then success will come from that. And having an impact, it's not glamorous all the time. There are times where being impactful is gross to some people, right? It may mean that you need to get into the gutters and help people with their rubbish, or help people with their problems, and help people with what they're going through in life. And no recognition could come from that. Sometimes you might get some sort of recognition, sometimes not. But the question here to ask is, if I had to look within me again, if I had to look at myself again, what is it that I can bring as an impact to the circle around me? What is it that I can bring as an impact to the world around me? As small as it may be, or as big as it may be, whatever it is, can I be impactful to an individual? And if the answer is yes, and it will be yes, it's never going to be no, it will be yes. So you just need to find that within. And then once you've gotten that, you become impactful to the people around you, you become impactful to the circle around you. Success flows from that. So chronologically, you want to be impactful before you are successful.
I like the way you said that. Heather, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if you're thinking about how can I impact others, aren't you placing the focus on me and what I've got and the talents I've got and what I can do? What about if you just decided, how can I serve others? Then you're looking more at them and what they need rather than what you can do. Because if you focus on what they need, it's amazing. I think that you will find resources within you that will help them.
Yes.
Just a question for you. You were talking a lot on leadership. So I've seen a lot of people who are naturally born leaders from the age of 2. They've got everybody doing what they need them to do and doing it with them. So a lot of times when people
Heather, we
reach
lost you there for a moment. Would you just like to repeat that?
leadership,
Yes.
some people are born leaders. Like from the age of 2, you see them leading other little children. And then sometimes you get to teenagers and you would like to inspire them to lead. How would you teach somebody to be a leader?
Lovely.
So I think my view, and it probably is not popular, but my view is everyone is a leader. That's my view. Everyone is a leader. The capacity at which we lead may be different, but everyone is a leader. So, in other words, if a 2-year-old has got, and this is probably conversations that you could have between gift, talent, and skill, right? So, gift, God is involved. Talent, that's probably hereditary, and skill, time is involved, and grit and consistency. So, if you are 2 years old, for instance, or you pick a 2-year-old, and you see a certain natural gift of just leadership, right? That is a different level. It's a different impact. It's a different impact of leadership or capacity of leadership, right? And you find an individual that does not have that capacity of leadership, that does not necessarily count him out as a leader. He is still a leader. He just does not have the same capacity of leadership as a 2-year-old that you just noticed now. So my view is everyone is a leader. So the advice and how to bring an individual into leadership is making that individual understand that you are a leader. That's the first thing to understand. Is just because you don't have 100,000 people behind you and following you does not discount you as a leader. You are one. And first, we need to understand that. And by that, I mean, you first also need to lead yourself. Even though you're following someone, you still are impacting yourself as a leader to say, I'm going to lead myself behind this individual, right? That's still leadership. It's just a different capacity of it. My view is that everyone is a leader, and we just need to understand which capacity of leadership we have at a certain point in time. And that can grow with time and consistency. You could become a bigger leader, a grand leader, or if that's what you even want, right? But the premise of everything is that everyone in their own capacities are leaders.
And Guadi's just thrown up a question on the screen and asks, would you like to comment on servant leadership?
Servant leadership.
Yeah. And Guadi said, right? Yes, yeah, explore servant leadership style.
So if I understand this, servant leadership would be probably what they call leading from the back, where you are helping others go ahead of you. You're serving people to be ahead of you and to impact people from the back. And there were many references in Nelson Mandela's life as being a leader from the back, although he did take the fourth as well. And I would say I'm not sure on exactly how the question is being posed when you say comment on it. I'm not entirely sure what we're looking for here, but I think if I could just say servant leadership, it's just leading from the back and probably having an impact or impacting your circle from the back. So you may, and I suppose one of the things to also keep into consideration is your proclivity as well as in terms of your characteristics, right? So you find leaders that are really charismatic. They're out there and they're speaking and they're loud and they're taking the room. The moment they get into the room, they take control of that room and done deal. And you've got leaders in the characteristics that are really quiet in the corner of the room. They say nothing at all, right? And it's just helping people make things work, right? They're just helping people make things work. They're not really there to take over. They're just there just in case something went wrong, for instance. And I would probably look at that as, servant leadership. So understanding your own characteristics and the proclivity of your own characteristics, and putting that into play in your leadership. So servant leadership could have something to do with that too.
And we read about how Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, which is maybe one of the greatest examples of servant leadership.
Oh yeah, certainly. Totally agree.
Heather, would you like to ask something a little bit more?
No, I was thinking of the servant leadership and thinking, with salesmen.
Yes.
They considered great leaders because they go out there and they make the sale, but you've got a whole team of people behind them doing all the paperwork, doing the invoicing, following up, getting the money in. And that's something that I was thinking of there. So with servant leadership, I think with any to become a successful leader, you don't walk in the front and tell people what to do. You do it with them. You've got to do it with them. You've got to show them how to do it. When I was doing my hotel management training, the first day I went there from college, and I thought that's it. I'm going to have this lovely office, and they put me in the kitchen to learn. So sometimes to lead, you've got to learn from the basics. So yeah, I absolutely love that. But what made you study IT? Information.
What made me study IT?
Yeah, what inspired you to study?
Curiosity. So I was introduced to IT in grade 10. Although, again, I'm that individual that always got in trouble with my parent as a kid, because I could never leave any toy unopened. I would always open toys and try and get into the electronics of toys and find out how this thing is working, and why are the wheels spinning so fast? Why couldn't it be a little bit faster or slower? So I was always that guy. And I've got to tell you, this is true story. All the keyboards I've owned, I've opened them too. So it's just I just have a certain level of curiosity, trying to see how things work on the inside. I've always known as a kid that if I don't end up in electronics, it's probably going to be some computer something. And that's always been me. So that's the reason why I ended up in IT. And I think you're probably asking that to say, why didn't I do something leadership wise as opposed to IT? Am I right? Yeah. And I think the short answer to that is, if you come from a Central African family, there are four things that usually matter. It's engineering, it's being a doctor or a lawyer. It's one of those. And if you're just gonna go to your parents and say, I want to be, at least in my household, that's kind of one of the things that happened there. You couldn't just go to your dad and say, I just want to do leadership studies. It wouldn't go down too well. So I had like a backup, in my characteristics in terms of what I liked. So then I picked information technology from there.
I have
But
a
if
question
you'd
for
gone to
Miles.
your parents and said, I want to become a musician, what would have happened?
Oh, that wouldn't have flown. That was not going to fly at all. If you want to be a musician, I don't know how that would have turned out, but I just know it would have never worked out. That's for sure,
Just,
guaranteed.
Dale, from my point of view, Miles Munro to me is one of the leading authorities on talking about the kingdom of God. And did you do any of his works on kingdom? And would you like to pass comment?
Yeah. So I think what I've always loved is how he's brought things into exactly what you've said is that the kingdom of God, let your kingdom come, for instance, there's a
Yes.
the prayer of Christ to bring the kingdom down, right? So essentially what we talk about when we talk about kingdoms, we always bring the notion and the flavor of laws, right, within that living being, right? So a kingdom is like a living being that has laws and rules in which it should and it must sort of like run and operate. And what I've picked up and what I've learned is that even us as well here on earth, right? They are, as much as we're a physical being, we are also spiritual being traversing the space of earth, right? And having been this entity, the laws that are applied in the specific sphere, if it's spiritual, there are laws that apply in the spiritual sphere to be successful, impactful, or to navigate through that sphere, right? There are laws. And physically, there are also laws that apply in the physical sphere. One of them, right, would be communication, for instance. We communicate ideas. We communicate, thought. But the ideas and thoughts that we're communicating are elusive, right? We're downloading them from certain spaces where it could be spiritual. And there are also laws in spiritual spaces from which you could go from one level of thoughts to a different level of thought, right? So if you look at something maybe from the first principles, you're like, okay, I've got this thought that I should have a floating island or tropical floating island in space. As elusive that can be, I can communicate that to you in the physical realm for you to make sense out of it and then, bring some sort of value from it. So when we're talking about the kingdom of God and the kingdom of earth on earth, what I've picked up and what I've learned is that we've got laws for each entity, whether you're in the spiritual or you're in the physical, and you kind of just need to know what the laws are for you to be able to navigate through those spheres and be successful through them.
Thank you. Marvin, in closing, would you like to add anything else to Deo's story or tell us a little bit more about Deo?
Sure. I think if I look at Deo's makeup in terms of his journey getting to here and what he shared with us in terms of getting to where he is, I'm excited about the fact that he can use the principles of Map for Life to create the journey and follow through to getting to where he is right now. And I mean, where he is kind of the next step in a bigger picture. I'd be excited to see what the vision board looks like going forward now that he's graduated and gotten the masters, because that was a big focus for us when while he was still here in South Africa, and just kind of talking through what happens next, where things are at. The amazing thing is, while he had some work to do for himself in terms of applying, in terms of understanding a bit more, going through the interview process or being accepted onto the program, I think the other parts that he didn't mention, which was how God opened doors for him, where he was selected, he got a full scholarship, plus the trip being there for a year longer than he had planned, is also being covered financially. just goes to show how powerful, firstly, writing a thing down, doing your necessary, doing the things that you should be doing in terms of your actions, and then allowing God to open up a door, allowing God to open up the doors, actually. Um, Today, I feel very proud to see here is somebody that's a living testimony of Map for Life in action.
Yes.
And his story doesn't stop here. His story carries on from here, and I think it is only going to get bigger and better from here. So it starts with that part about him writing down, starts the part about him putting to action the things that he needs to do, um, and then not just leaving it there, but doing the necessary, and then allowing God to open up the doors that had happened. And yeah, Deo, I mean, I'll say it again publicly. I'm very proud of you, bro. I think
Thank you.
I'm keen to see what happens next. I'd like to see the next version of the vision board. In
Right.
fact, we'd like to see the next version of the vision board because
Yes.
I see
Yes.
even bigger and greater things for you. So just keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate that.
think,
Thank you so much.
for me, what comes out is that my action plan is fitted in with the master's action plan. And when we in
Yeah,
that place, we see how the master's abundant provision comes through. And just listening to
sure.
that story where the master just made the way clear for Deo to reach those great heights. And I look forward to continuing this discussion at a later stage. And I'm sure we're going to have more sessions like this. And I just think it's so wonderful to see. And I just sort of say, this little guy from Central Africa moving all the way to West Coast of America. And I look forward to talking to Dr. Deo in the not too distant
Hey,
future.
there we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
thank
There
you
we
so
go.
much.
Thank you, Deo. Thank you. We really appreciate it. But I think for some of us, we're looking at the clock and we know that the power's going to go out and we need to say good night to all. So to all the viewers out there, look forward to seeing you next week and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.